Well drilling is a huge subject, particularly in the homesteading kind of world, in a world where people want to have their own place to be away from it all. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to drill a well and how much it costs to actually drill your own well. So how much does it cost to drill your own well? Now, if you live in a city, that's not relevant to you because you have city water and so on. But many people over the last few years, particularly since COVID and since the advent of technology that allows you to be anywhere right now, have full internet access, full cell phone reception, and have solar panels that are now actually affordable, can actually live wherever they want. However, if you are one of the ones that want to live on your own 20-acre parcel a couple of hours away from town, then you need your own well because there won't be city water or city sewer there. So with that said, let's figure out how much a well costs, and at the end of this video, you will know exactly the details of how this all works. All right, so the average depth of a well in the United States is typically around 150 feet. Now, the average cost per foot is between $25 and $65 per foot. Now, why does it vary so much? Very simply because of the soil conditions. If you have to drill through a bunch of bedrock, it's going to cost you more than if you have to drill to a bunch of sand and clay and just simple dirt that doesn't put up any kind of resistance. At the same time, also, transportation costs. How far away from everything are you plays a role. If they have to haul the well equipment for 6 hours to your place, plus a bunch of workers and perhaps stay overnight in order to do this, it becomes more expensive. If you're drilling a well in the suburbs, then or just outside of town and everyone can go, drill their well, come back at home, sleep in their own beds, it becomes obviously much more affordable. But even at the highest level of that, if you have a well that is 150 feet deep and it costs you even at the higher end $60, $65 a well, it typically doesn't cost more than $9,500 to drill a well. Now that sounds like much, but really is it? Because a typical well actually lasts for 40 years. So over the next 40 years, if you use that well, if you build a house next door to it, if you actually use it as your source for water in the house, then you actually got free water for the next 4 decades. Now, I don't know about you, but I look at my water bill, and my water bill, of course, we have a pool in the backyard and so on, but my water bill is easily $100 a month. So $100 times 12 is $1,200 a year. So in a matter of basically 8 or 9 years, I would have my money back on my own well. And it's actually really important to have your own well, particularly if you're looking to have your own kind of homestead outside of town in an area where there is no running water from the city. Typically also it takes about a week to install a well, again depending on location and depending on circumstances and so on. Now also, let me just tell you a little bit word of caution. There's of course areas in this country where wells are 3,000 feet deep. For example, there's an area in northern Arizona called Seligman, Arizona. It's actually the birthplace of Route 66. That town is so cute, it actually became an inspiration for the movie Cars because it's full of those kind of like little shops and little repair shops and so on. It's really super cute. In and around Kingman, Arizona, the well depth is 3,000 feet. So in that case, let's say even if it just costs you a middle of the road $30 or $40 a foot, it actually would cost you $3,000, $30,000, cost you $120,000 to drill that well. Now obviously that's crazy, but there's a few ways that you can actually protect yourself from that even being ever a situation that you get into. The first way is that you can ask your state to tell you what they think the well depth is. And the state knows because, for example, every state keeps very well track of all their wells because water has become a precious and scarce issue in a lot of, and scarce resource in a lot of the states of the United States. There's droughts everywhere, there's floods everywhere, there's fights on the West Coast between the different states over who gets what amount of water from the Colorado River. And so water has become a very highly monitored resource. So therefore, all you need to do if you want to find out what the water levels are, you simply contact the equivalent, in some states it's called different, but the equivalent of your state's Department of Water Resources. That department exists every state has one of them, and they keep track of like how much water is being used and how much water is available. So if you do that and you ask them, you say like, hey, I want to buy this 20-acre parcel over here, and can you tell me what you think the water levels are? what they will give you is they will give you the water, the depth of the surrounding wells that are around. Usually within a few mile circle around that lot, there's other people who also have drilled wells. So they might tell you, you know what, the well over there is 150 feet, the well over there is 200 feet, the well over there is 130 feet, the well over there is 170 feet, and the well over here is 150 feet. So if they're all basically in the same range between 130 and 170, you can pretty much assume that yours will be in that same range too. If they all of a sudden tell you that this well is 3,000 feet deep and this one is 2,500 feet and this one is 900 feet deep, you might want to reconsidering buying that property in the first place unless you have deep pockets, because a 1,000-foot well is going to cost you $40,000. And I don't know if that's worth it. You only can decide that. Now, on top of it, the cost is also defined by a few other things. What kind of casing do you need? What kind of infrastructure does the well need? What kind of technology do you want to use to actually have the water be pumped out and pumped into the house? Where do you want it to have it pumped? All these kind of things obviously play a role and can make your well either less expensive or more expensive. All right, in terms of casing, there's three kinds of casing that you can typically use for a well. The first one is stainless steel casing, which obviously costs them more. The second one is galvanized steel casing, and the third one is PVC casing. Each of them have different price points, with the stainless steel casing going for $120 a foot. So if you need 25 feet, that's again a few $1,000s. The galvanized steel casing costs $30 to $40 a casing, and the PVC casing only costs $6 per casing. But of course, it's not going to last as long as the stainless steel one. So you gotta basically, but surely it's good enough for now. You can always go 10 years, 20 years from now and have it redone at that point of time when you have built up some additional savings. And for example, just the cost of casing for a normal well adds another $2,500 to $4,000 from that. So again, let's say if you have a $100 well and it's not too far away from everything, just a couple of hours, then you can probably get that well drilled for $4,000 plus another $2,500 for casing. You're at $6,500 plus a couple of other things. You're at, let's say, maximum, you're at $10,000 for that well. And that is actually an affordable well that now provides you water for the next 40 years on average and makes you independent of the world. Now add to that some of the newest technology developments, like for example, you get a Starlink satellite dish from Elon Musk, and you get some solar panels on your property that are now super powerful and very inexpensive, and you are fully set up to live on that place away from it all. You live off the grid, you live away from the government. If there's a World War III happens, if whatever happens, you can simply live off the land. You got water, you got electricity, you got satellite internet, you got satellite telephone. You're good to go. However, there's a couple of other things that we of course haven't added yet. At this point, you only have water coming out, but what happens when the water needs to go somewhere? Where also do you store the water? So the next thing you want to add is a water storage tank. And again, there's multiple options that you can choose here too. There's a simple storage tank, there's a water tank, and there's also a pressure tank that you can use that. Now obviously again, they have different price points, the pressure tank with it being the most upscale, because the pressure tank has itself like the ability to constantly come water out and you don't have to turn the pump on and off all the time. But again, all of them work. A simple water storage tank can cost as little as $100 to $700. I mean, I've seen even people that go to the community water storage, to the water well and fill it up and have a storage tank on their pickup truck, and then they have a storage tank at home. They don't even have their own well. They go to a community well and pick it up, but then they fill up that tank. Again, all of that can be had for probably less than $1,000. Lastly, you need to have something that seals the well, and that's a cap, and a cap costs like $50. But it's obviously something that is necessary to prevent from contaminants and branches and things like that to fall into your well and ultimately stuff it full and make it no longer working. So all of these things are the simple pieces of the well. And then adding to that, now comes the question of what happens. Now you have all the water that comes out. You can use it if you have cattle. You can use it to feed, to give water to the animals. But what if you want to actually use that for your own house? So if the next step is for you to build your own homestead property, your own homestead house on the property, of course, at that point, a few extra things come in. Because at this point, what you now need to do is not just worry about how the water comes out of the ground, but also how does it go? How does the wastewater go back into the ground? So at this point, you need to go look into a septic system with a leach field, and you also probably need to look into some extra pumping and extra mechanism to bring the water straight into your house so you have running water, shower, and all those kind of things in your house. But that's a bridge you can cross a little bit later, because most importantly right now, you are asking, how much does it cost to drill your own well? And while drilling the well is only a portion of the cost, we can pretty much estimate that a well of the depth of about 150 feet ends up costing you somewhere in the $12,000 to $15,000 range, everything included. And given the fact that you actually want a place that is away from it all, but it has water, electricity, and satellite internet, this together is really not a bad price to pay for what you want to accomplish. All right, if you enjoyed that, and if actually the next step for you is now actually finding that piece of land, then you might want to go download our 30-day blueprint that shows you exactly how you can find these kinds of pieces of land for 10 to 45 cents on the dollar, and actually how you could potentially even make that a business of finding these deals and selling them, making money in the process. And even though you live on your homestead property, that means you can still do land deals and be a real estate investor and make money from anywhere in the world, including your 5, 10, or 20 acre off-the-grid property that now is a well, that has a septic system, that has solar, and that has also a satellite dish. All right, with that said, go to landblueprint.com, download that right now, and I'll see you in the next video.